I encourage young people, if you're looking, in your career, change. If you don't like or love what you're doing, change. Because the sooner you can find a job that you love that pays you at the same time, you'll be happy for a long time.
This podcast is proudly supported by the Ōtara Network Action Committee, ONAC, community-owned, community-driven and community-led.
No mai haere mai ki tēnei podcast. There must be a transliteration for that word somewhere. It's Judy Spate here again, sharing yet another podcast on this exciting channel that's made for Ōtara by Ōtara. And what we're doing in this podcast is sharing our stories, the great stories of the great people of this amazing city, because not enough of them get told. So today, I'm really honoured to be here with Fitisemanu. And I've had the honour of knowing Anne, I think it must be more than 10 years now, isn't it?
More,
it is,
definitely.
Yeah, when you were at
Definitely
Counties.
more, yeah.
And we did an amazing project together, which I really loved. Yeah, anyway, so before I go too much into that, why don't you do you want to do a wee introduction about who you are? Or we can bring that into the conversation as we go.
Okay, thanks Judy.
Yeah.
Kia ora everybody, talofa lava, whakalofalahi atu, malo lelei, kia rana, ni sambula vinaka. Warm greetings. So my name's Anne Fitisemanu. I'm currently the CEO for an amazing global charity called Make-A-Wish.
Yeah.
Aotearoa, New Zealand. And prior to that, I was the CEO of a social enterprise called Tuputoa, which pathwayed Māori and Pacific talent, tertiary talent, into corporate NZ. And then prior to that, which is where probably you and I first met, I spent 10 years in the health sector across a number of DHBs. And I think it was during that time that I was probably most active in terms of serving this community or being part of this community.
Because it was that amazing project, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Do you remember what it was
There
called?
were several projects.
But
So
inside a kaupapa, which was...
there was a church-based program that came out of counties. There was also health science academies that came out of counties.
Yeah.
I mean, my focus predominantly in the health sector was around workforce development, which really, if you unpack it, is around how do we get more Pacific, which was my focus, into a career in health. And not just the careers that we all know, like nurses and doctors, but the careers where you'll find our people all the time. So interesting, different careers.
Exciting.
Like speech therapy, podiatry, physio, lab technician, a whole range of opportunities. Yeah.
So it's interesting so it was more that project, and we called that project LEAP, do you remember? Local
Yes.
Employment Access Project.
Yep.
And I guess that's exactly what drives me today. One of the things we're probably most excited about is Vinny who's behind the camera.
Hi, Vinny.
Vinny's done a great career change out of technology and nuts and bolts into technology. What does it do for us, and how can it do, and how can we tell messages with it? So, and with him on that journey are a number of our youth, and they've worked in front of the camera, behind the camera. I introduced you to Chevelle, who's now an up and coming podcaster, mentored by Vinny.
Awesome.
Some of our girls have done extra work on ahikaroa, and they're about to sign up to do more of that kind of work. But they also do documentaries. And so when we're really excited, and it might be something that probably not your organisation, because we like to prey on those with slightly larger wallets. But what we're trying to do is encourage entities, organisations, and we've been really blessed with some work with council, to not hire the advertising agency to bring in some ridiculously priced video team, but to use our team. We're really lucky that we've got an incredible mentor, and not just Vinny, but also we both have a mentor, a guy called Daniel Habidang that owns Sunpix Studios. Daniel has much more fun with us, so he does that instead these days. And it's it has the potential to become a social enterprise, of course.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, just hearing you speak, Judy, and I think, Vinny, for you, having moved from what sounds like behind the scenes in tech, and it's interesting because tech's everywhere, and it's something that I don't know if, all of our people understand that whether they like it or not, it's there, and we need to embrace it. It's an enabler. And at Tuputoa, one of the innovations that I introduced there was a pathway working with tech giants like Salesforce, Google, Microsoft, and what we did in one of the pilots, and it's still going today, is Salesforce is known as the largest CRM in the world. They're a tech giant. You can be trained in Salesforce as a Salesforce administrator, and you can pathway right up the chain. And so you can come in with, you don't have to have any tertiary degree. You don't even have to finish high school. If you're wired that way and are curious and willing to learn, they can train you. And we did that. We took a group of students, put them into a Salesforce funded training program. In fact, there's a class on right now, and there'll be another one. And put them into an organisation within the Salesforce team. And their starting salary as an intern on that pilot was $55,000.
That's a great way to go,
10 weeks,
really, isn't
so
it?
10 weeks of 1 day a week in class with a cohort of 15. So in the environment within an organisation, in the classroom, putting terminology to practicality, back into the organisation doing. At the end of 10 weeks, there was a micro-credential level 4 attached to that, which was, easy. And then 2 weeks later, you did an intensive boot camp, and you sat the global Salesforce admin certification, and that was funded. And the minute you got that, you progressed from 55 to 65K. So, and we've had a couple of students who've gone on within, large companies. I won't share names, but, global companies who've worked their way up, and they're functional consultants. So can tech change lives? Can it? Absolutely.
Absolutely, it can, yeah.
Absolutely. So,
and it's creating those pathways to make it accessible for our people, because lots of our kids never finish school.
Well, if so that's a pilot that is on right now. I believe there may be one cohort left, but it's anybody that is Pacific or Māori is eligible to do that training. It's
and the entry
commitment.
quals need to
Nothing.
be nothing.
Nothing.
Just a good attitude.
You need to come to class every Saturday
And
for 10
classes
weeks,
are
and you'll leave with a micro credential, NZQA, right, level 4, and an opportunity to then progress to the Salesforce admin certification. And if you Google seek, have a look how many jobs are looking for Salesforce admin skills.
I used to work with them a lot in my corporate life. So Salesforce, I think, and we'll put some, we'll do an investigation following this so that we can work out if we have got anyone on the team. I think our basic premise was possibly not quite as ambitious as that, but a lot of our kids don't go to school, haven't been to school since before COVID. There are thousands of them in Ōtara, and we're just trying to create opportunities for the kids to get excited about getting off the couch in that first instance. And I think there's not an awful lot you can do when you've got no money, but I think that having that segue into creating storytelling, particularly in an era where storytelling doesn't seem to come local very often. The stories, I would probably say the stories are there local. Oh,
but it's
absolutely.
How do you bring them out?
Well, that's what we're doing with this podcast.
And share them.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking, to your question, how would I get kids off the couch? So, as a mother of 7, I think I
You're
can
quite
speak.
skilled at
well,
that.
not that my kids were on the couch, because they actually weren't allowed to. They'll tell you they weren't allowed, even on the weekends, to lay on the couch for long periods of time. If it was a sunny day, they were outside.
In the garden.
Well, they were just doing chores or playing a sport. They're allowed to watch TV, but there was a time in the day. But they were never raised to just sit in front of a television all day. That just
absolutely
just wasn't in the book. So you either raked leaves, tidied your room, or if you'd rather, you could play a sport.
So there are way more drivers behind all of that than just the fact that they're on the couch. And I think perhaps we won't try and solve those here today, but
hey,
they're
it's
in our
okay to
face
sit
every
on the
day.
couch. I like it too. You know, at the end of the day, put my feet up. I enjoy lying on the couch, sitting on the couch, and enjoying a little bit of television. But it's
But not all day every
no.
And it comes with a whole lot of other awful things. But here we have the opportunity every day to give back to other people, and that action in itself, giving someone food, giving someone clothes, giving someone the opportunity to dig our veggie garden, hustling plants from the local lawyers, so we can have our community veggie garden going again. But there's new things to learn every day, and that's what we've got, a group of kids that are really starting to figure that out and thriving on it.
That's good.
It is. It's really exciting, but I think having that next step there, I can hear Vinny being really interested, but I'm trying not to show any interest in him being really interested. He is, a record-breaking podcaster, though, in terms of the number of podcasts. So we've now done more than 150 hours of podcasting since COVID, when we set up this studio. And Vinny has personally made, maybe 40 or 50 podcasts. Oh, more than that. 80 podcasts.
And
lots.
so here's a question I have for Vinny, because obviously it's something that you love to do, Vinny.
You didn't realise you were going to be subject matter.
And it sounds like, but and this is how I roll. I tend to, when I come across something that I think is exciting, I tend to go to where are some opportunities that I could maybe share for what you do. So at Tuputoa we did a number of podcasts with alumni, but of course they were all just sit in a chair, film with your phone, or we did have a camera. But I'm thinking, if you can take your setup here and support other organisations, which would drive a bit of revenue, I'd be more than happy to broker that with, say, my previous organisation, but even where I am now, Make-A-Wish. So one of the things about Make-A-Wish, which is extraordinary, is that we have a volunteer base of 200 plus people, right? So they're the workforce. They're the invisible workforce who do everything they do. Well,
that's how it works around here too. Yeah.
Right. And wouldn't it be awesome if we could have? So one of the things that I have been looking at, and it's a priority. I've been at Make-A-Wish now for 4 months, October, November, December, January, 5 months. Is around reactivating our volunteers. So I'd be really open to seeing how you could support Make-A-Wish to do a couple of podcasts or a series throughout the year.
We'd be absolutely delighted to do that. We've offered that opportunity locally, and I think publicly through the podcast, but there haven't been really any broad takers for that.
Yeah, and I think what it would require is for you to be mobile. Is there a way that you can uplift your setup here? Can you?
Well, we
can you
tried to get funding for a van to put it in, but this is not really a mobile setup at all. But we're only 20 minutes down the motorway from the big bad city, as long as you're not trying to come at 8 in the morning and go home at 5. I think it's good for people to come and feel the joy and the love and the excitement of Ōtara, because that's part of who we are.
Yeah.
But if we're saying, well, we're going to turn up with some suitcases, and it's a slightly different situation.
Yeah, but if the people can't come to you, then you take your Ōtara-ness to the people. That's what I'm suggesting.
So we've done that with documentary making, which has been great. So it's probably a different setup without the lights.
I'm thinking you could come and set up in a room for a day or 2 days, and over those 2 days we could do a series of podcasts which we could release during the year. But to maximise and make it worthwhile, you moving and setting up, we could, you know what I mean? We could, anyway, talk to me later. I'd be happy to look at doing something out there.
Well, let's see what we could do to bring something like that together, shouldn't we? Really. I mean, the idea was the mobile podcast studio, but it hasn't come together because it's simply a matter of cash. But it would probably fit in with some of our other objectives.
Hopefully, you charge a fee for your service.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and that would be.
And then you take your message. So you, with your fee, with you being mobile, you take your message with you.
We have a fee structure. I'll share all of that with you, and because what we're doing is guaranteeing a first class output, because Daniel, who sits with us and supports Vinny's work and the broader kaupapa as well, he's probably the best editor and creator in the country. So I made that claim for you, Daniel. I hope I haven't oversold you. I know I haven't. We might take that bit out. Anyway, I mean, Daniel is first class and very talented, and no one would know it wasn't made in a television studio.
Nice.
Yeah, we're very fortunate.
I have somebody on my team that is very creative who comes from a television background, so so I'm sure. And it's interesting that
could get excited about that.
She used to make doco. She was a producer on some really well-known New Zealand,
Same
series.
Story. Yeah.
And but her passion is Make-A-Wish, and what she loves is she's a lead Wish producer.
Wow.
So she brings to life wishes like the one you shared around, wanting a pirate ship.
Yeah.
So she brings that sort of, she brings wishes to
packages
life
it up
in a way that just you'd never think of.
How glorious. Wow.
So, and they're the sort of people I would love to, interview.
Yeah.
And to be able to share that. I think, doing a podcast, Make-A-Wish, you've given me a great idea. So let's make it happen, Vinny.
Yeah. So she could come out here, do you think, in the first instance?
I think it's better you come to Make-A-Wish, because if you're doing it for Make-A-Wish, you need to be in the Make-A-Wish space.
Okay. Even though it's collaborative. So where are you located?
Well, the collaboration is how you share who you are, and we share who this is done with.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and by.
Absolutely. So we'll park that and come back to it afterwards so we can make it all happen, because it happened here on the podcast. That's exciting. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what drew you to Make-A-Wish, Anne? Because I know your immense energy and power and creativity in these things. I've seen you work before and I've been inspired by it. Let's start with that. Okay. What drew you to Make-A-Wish?
So I was coming up to my, I think, 8th year at Tuputoa, and I was the second CE at Tuputoa. So I'd basically taken Tuputoa from, I suppose, a small seed to what it was when I left. And, it was a program that had grown year in, year out. We had, large numbers of New Zealand organisations signed up as partners. We, at our peak, had over 300 interns coming through the program. So we started with 20 over 8 years. A team that was 2.5 to, at its peak, over 20 staff.
Wow.
We had an office in Wellington. So I felt that, one thing about being a leader I've learned is that you need to know when it's time to pass the baton. And I loved my time at Tuputoa. But obviously being Pacific, that was one of my superpowers. And I brought, but there was a need to really strengthen our relationship and our commitment and our numbers around our Māori interns coming in. And I felt that, despite having some amazing talent, Māori talent in my leadership team, the fact that I wasn't from that community, I think, just held us back a little bit. So, with love and care, I signalled that to the board and said that I would stay until we found the right person. And when we found Aroha, I handed the baton over. Because I think, a kaupapa like Tuputoa is like that. It's different from, mainstream organisations where, CE comes, CE goes, and you never really see them again. Whereas at Tuputoa, I may have left the waka, but I'm still part of the waka.
Your soul's in the waka.
Yeah. So, in looking
it's a very
out,
Māori concept actually, which is rather special.
Yeah,
too,
and it's a Pacific one, right? We're there. The cause is bigger than all of us, and we're there for a time, for a season, to do great work. And the work is never all done, and so it's about handing it over to others to take it to new heights, to new direction.
More energy.
Yeah, different energy. So I was looking out to see what next, sharpened my CV, and actually somebody reached out to me and said, hey, there's a job going, I think you'd be perfect, why don't you apply? And I just thought, why don't I apply? Let's just apply and see where it goes, because I needed to practice, right? I'd been out of practice for 8 years.
Yeah.
So I applied, and I got a call to say, would you like to meet the board? which is the same thing that happened with Tuputoa. So, one of my kind of tips to young people is when somebody asks you, are you interested in meeting the board or would you be interested in learning more? I go, absolutely. Never say no to an opportunity. Never, because you never know where it's going to lead. So I said yes, I applied, I had a meeting. That meeting then led to a second meeting where I did a presentation, and it was at that kind of meeting or preparing for that I thought, you know what, I think I could do this. So I presented, I met with the full board, and when I was asked the question, why Make-A-Wish, I said, well, as a mother of 7, and a grandmother of 12 now, I said, I've been absolutely blessed with good health for myself, good health for my children and my grandchildren. So I can't imagine what parents must go through when one of their children is, come down with a critically ill, illness that just disrupts the child's life and the life of a family for not just a short time, but sometimes a long time. I can't imagine what it's like to have a child who spends more time in hospital than they do at home or in school. So I thought, this is an opportunity to give back, and I'm purpose driven, and I thought I can get behind Make-A-Wish, and if you know me, once I can get behind something, I'm all in. And then I reflected on the work and what it needed, and it needed a new leader, it needed refreshing, it needed somebody that could grow it, and there were all the things that I think I kind of sharpened my skills around at Tuputoa. So, and when you get an opportunity to lead an organisation, it's great, you get the title, you get the challenge, you get the risk, you get the stress, all of that. But there's something, in you that says, was that a bit of luck, or could I do it again? So, can I do it again, and can I take my learnings and grow from that and bring that to Make-A-Wish? And I think I can, and I think I'm doing that. And if I share, last night we had a board meeting, so it was my second board meeting on my own since I joined, and we did a session around strategic planning, and the chair of the board did a round table at the end of the night, and he said, so how is everybody feeling? How's everybody feeling? Let's wrap it up. Do we think we've done enough to give Anne, our thinking around the strategic priorities and pillars for the next few years? And the point was made that a strategic plan, whilst 20 years ago people might think it's something that the directors, the board lead, actually I believe it's something that you do in collaboration with your CE and your leadership team. And so that's the journey we've been on. So when we wrapped up, there were some really amazing and warm and kind of comments that came from board members around this is the best it's felt for a number of years. I was thinking of leaving, but I'm really inspired after tonight's session. And so there were words that really told me that we are one team, that we are aligned, and that and I planted the words around having faith. Don't have fear, because if you're fearful, then you'll think the worst of us and everybody. But if you have faith, that will then inspire and make everybody believe that we can. So
we can.
So, and I'm a big believer of anything's possible. So, which it's a good thing, but sometimes it's gets me into trouble.
But it's also there's no room for prisoners. And there's no room for those moments of self-doubt.
So whether it's your children, your partner, your neighbours, your friends, I just think sowing those seeds of absolute belief that they can. Goes a long way. So, and I'm sure you do that. So if we go back to the kids on the couch, sowing those seeds often around, what, I know you can do this. I know you probably don't want to at the moment. It's probably the last thing on your mind. But
such joy when they do it,
if you just trust me, come with me, find a way to get them to start the journey. Find a way to get them to the start gate. Well,
that's exactly what we do, and it's
the
wonderful.
And then the rest just happens, right?
It's such an honour to be part of those journeys too, isn't it? That's probably the most humbling thing. I was thinking about your message around faith. So, we talk about, basically we pray things up. So, we pray that the prayer, and it's a multi-dimensional prayer, whichever prayer works for who.
Yep.
But it's all about abundance. And,
Yep.
we started with, praying for abundance in food. And so now we have abundance.
Yep.
And then it was about clothing, and now we have clothing abundance. But it all happens through those strategic partnerships that, become the bricks and mortar of what we can create,
Absolutely,
with
together.
nothing.
Because I think, if I think about the charity sector, the social enterprise sector, the not-for-profit sector, there's enough out there for everybody, I believe. Even in the wider world, right? There's enough food in the world to feed the world.
Oh, for sure.
It's the distribution of that food.
And the same from a funding perspective, if I might say.
Yeah.
If some people didn't
Yeah.
shove it in their back pockets.
Yeah, we've just got to find a way to tap into and, be there, ready. But if we believe it, it'll come.
Yeah, absolutely. But it doesn't happen quickly. I think that's the other thing too. These are not overnight wonders. These are long demonstrations of commitment and insight and love.
Yeah.
Really, of love.
And pace and speed is something that it's interesting. I tend to be a speed person. I tend to work at pace. And again, I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying that I'm mindful of the impact that can have on others around, because it's all very well for me to go at this pace. But when you have a team and you're leading an organisation, you have to consider the impact on them. And I've learnt that you have to, check in and make sure, that everybody's okay, because and a good example is I tend to do emails any time of the day or night, and I sent one the other night. A board member replied to something, I replied back, but it was 11 o'clock, and next minute it was like, stop working. And I like working, so it's not about the time. But I'm mindful of how that looks to your team. If you're sending out emails to your team at all hours, then they tend to think, is that what I'm meant to do? So how I approach that is I let my team know, listen, I work this way, but I do not expect you to work that way. So don't respond to emails that you hear at all hours. That is, if I need something from you, I will ring you personally. But just ignore that. That's just me trying to just get through a few things.
Yeah, because you're just working through your to-do list, the things that you've agreed with yourself you're going to do today.
Yeah, but if you think about leading by example, you have to think of that when you're leading a team.
So it's slightly different in our organisation, I think, because everyone's a volunteer, apart from our key people like Vin. But you work way out, Vinny does work way outside his hours that he's paid
Probably
for.
because he loves his job. I find people that love what they do extremely long hours because they don't see it as work. They just see it as doing what they love. And, that's what I'm doing. I encourage young people, if you're looking, in your career, change. If you don't like or love what you're doing, change, because the sooner you can find a job that you love that pays you at the same time, you'll be happy for a long time.
I think Careers New Zealand had that, I suppose we would call it a whakatauki, but I've never seen it in Te Reo. But find a job you love and you'll never work another day in your life. I feel very much like that. My husband queries quite what I'm doing downstairs all night, every night, but I'm fulfilled. Yeah. So if we think back, how are we going for time, Ben?
Close to 30 minutes.
Is that...
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Ask some big questions, some tough questions.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking, so you're going to grow this surprising organisation, Make-A-Wish.
Mm-hmm. We've been around 39 years, 38 years, so it's a reasonable size,
Yeah, with reasonable resources and reasonable...
But if I think about in terms of growth, we want to ensure that every eligible child in New Zealand is granted a wish.
That's pretty special.
That's pretty special.
Pretty aspirational too, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Have you got any idea what that number is?
No, but it's definitely bigger than the number we're delivering. Last year we delivered 174 wishes. This year we are aiming to deliver 240. And over time we would love to, double down on that within 10 years. So again,
10 years, pushing 500
but you also have to be mindful of the pipeline and what contributes to the pipeline. And we deal in the area of critical illness. We have a criteria of 12 illnesses which are identified, and provided a child meets the criteria and it's confirmed by a medical specialist, we can grant the wish. So
there's a few ifs and maybes in there, aren't there?
Yeah, there are. And we have to, otherwise.
Of course.
Yeah.
So can you talk about those criteria, what the medical diagnosis
I'd probably best to send them through, because I don't want to mention a couple and not mention others.
Yeah.
But they're on our website.
Okay.
They're on our website. So
is that a shout out we might put at the end of the podcast?
Yeah, maybe. Or
do you know someone with?
Do you know if you know somebody who is dealing a child between the ages of 3 and 18, and if they're dealing with a critical illness, to either talk to their doctor or jump on our website and ask their doctor, do you think this child would qualify for a wish through
so the
Make
website is
makeawish.com.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think you can jump on and
well, we'll run that at the end of the interview anyway. But just the shout out is right here, isn't it?
Yeah, and the other shout out would be for anybody that is wanting to volunteer and be part of the Make-A-Wish whānau, right?
Can you describe for me?
Well, the volunteers are very special people, because they're actually the people that get to engage with the child, the family, and deliver the wish. The wish producer just helps put all the logistics together and deals with the providers and negotiates with the builder who builds the pirate ship and all of that. But the volunteer is the person that goes into the home, builds a relationship with this child, with the parents or with the whānau that are supporting the child, and helps the family come to a landing on what a wish could look like. What would be special for this child and this family. And then the volunteer goes on that journey with that child and with that family.
So it becomes really special for the volunteers, doesn't it?
Yeah. That's why we've had the volunteers that have been with us for 30 years.
So just tell me, did you want to take that? No. So can you describe for us, even in that short period that you've been involved, a wish that absolutely took your breath away, that inspired and said, this is actually what I'm here to do?
Well, I've not been on a wish because I'm registered to be a volunteer, but I have to go through some training, right? But I have witnessed the impact of wishes on my staff. And a good example would be a wish of a young girl called Micah, who her wish was delivered this year in January in Te Anau, and it was probably our biggest wish ever. So she had in her journey with her illness been in and out of hospital for a number of years. And when she was asked what she'd like to do, she actually said, I'd like to do something for my whole community, because they've supported me and my family for many, many years. So she wanted a street party. So Te Anau got behind her. So every local charity service in Te Anau, some of my team flew down. So my funding, head of funding, marketing, fundraising and marketing, communications lead, and the wish producer flew down. So the mayor of Te Anau, the fire engines was out. I think there were over 1,000 people. They had bouncy castle, they had activities. There was an art piece that was done for her, gifted her on the day to hang in her school. So she brought together a whole community. So
to celebrate.
And so everybody could celebrate. And there were people doing all kinds of things to just continually raise money for Make-A-Wish, maybe selling cupcakes, So there were all sorts of, but it was lovely. It brought the whole community together. community from as far down as Invercargill, you know, so it was amazing.
But even what must be a pretty little town, haven't ridden my bike through that part of the
But
country.
that was her wish, and it was
Yeah.
a real give back and thank everybody.
So humble and so pure, I guess, in its essence, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
That is a beautiful story.
Yeah. And there's another wish which was featured on the Women's Weekly Sunday, a double-page spread around a young boy by the name of Aaron, who had a wish around, I think, being a chef, I believe, and you know, sharing that with his family. And Sky City got behind it. The chef, the team. Apparently they cooked up an amazing meal for his family. But yeah, check it out in the Women's Weekly. It's a double-page spread.
Well, when it's 6 months old,
So, you know, the impact. So we're more than wishes.
Yeah.
We're more than an organisation that grants wishes.
No.
We're about bringing joy, hope, I suppose, laughter, communities, whānau together. And there's some research out which talks about the positive psychology in a wish journey that just lifts
everybody.
The
whole team as well as the actual,
So if you think about that and how good that could be for a nation, because, you know, hope is what we all need, right?
Yeah.
Bit of joy.
We are the business of hope
Absolutely.
around here.
So
I love
in
that.
the broader sense, I'd like to say Make-A-Wish is part of the wellbeing business
Yeah,
in our communities.
I like that. That's lovely. So if we were going to do a wrap, it'd be quite nice. I'm thinking about, it's always, you always want to have an opportunity to put a challenge out there. What would be your challenge to anybody that's watching this podcast, all those people and the popular ones? I think we've had more than 2,000 people who watched that tour. What's the challenge that you're going to give people that are watching the podcast?
I think my challenge to everybody watching the podcast is to, at some stage in your life, step outside your comfort zone. Lean into spaces that you would never lean into ways of thinking, ways of doing, engaging with, you know, communities that you would never think of doing. So step outside of your comfort zone, because I think, and you know, some of it could be step outside, maybe into some of your pain. So, you know, you often hear people, you know, we all come to the places that we're at through different journeys, and sometimes there's a bit of trauma, there's a bit of pain, but I always say that if you can go diving, you know, into that pain, you often find the most precious pearls. So stepping outside of your comfort zone is good, because that's when you get to experience sometimes a bit of fear, anxiousness, but it's often a time where you find out about yourself, you find out what's possible. Sometimes you can find a passion that you just hadn't tapped into, and you learn. I think you often learn your most when you are in environments that are totally foreign. So that would be my advice to everybody, and my challenge is to step outside your comfort zone, and if you can, sign up and help an organisation, a charitable organisation in your community, either volunteer, you know, get on the board, do something that is about doing for others.
And the riches are plenty.
Absolutely.
It's beautiful. Thank you, Anne. And I hope that we'll see you again very soon to talk about how we can work together.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Judy.